Hey, what's up, family? Thank y'all so much for tuning in today. So this message I've been thinking about for the last couple of weeks, and I'm so excited to go ahead and record on this today because not only do I need to hear this, but I know someone else does too. So we're going to be talking about the Wall of Jericho, and I want you to be thinking about what wall are you facing in your life right now. Look, this Wall of Jericho was huge. It was what they call impenetrable, which means nobody could get through it, right? It was huge, it was heavy, it was massive. And you might be up against something like that right now, where you're like, only God, only Jesus Christ can tear down this wall. Listen, if that's you, I am with you. But let's talk a little bit about how they conquered this with God and what it is that we can learn from the Battle of Jericho. All right. So we're going to be reading out of Joshua 6. All right. And I'm reading in the New King James Version. Before I get into this, I cannot give you, as Dr. DeHarius Daniels would say, content without giving you context. Basically, what happens before they even get to Jericho. So I do have to tell you that briefly before we go into this lesson. So the Israelites are now at the Jordan River. Okay. So the Wall of Jericho is not the first obstacle or challenge that they face. They are at the Jordan River. And according to the Bible, the Jordan River was at flood stage, which means the currents were crazy, wind whipping, water going everywhere. Like literally, if you were to step in to the river at that time when it was like that, you would have got swept away. Okay. But they've come, this is the only way for them to get to the promised land, is to cross the Jordan River, right? So they're scared. What does God do? God performs a miracle. What he does is he's like, I'm going to set the tone for the victory in Jericho. I'm going to set the tone for a miracle and show you right now what it is that I can do and who I am. So what God does is he instructs them to step into this river. They do that. The moment they do this, the storm stops. The water ceases. Sound familiar? The Red Sea, right? I love that God reminds people of who he is by being consistent in the way that he performs miracle, because he used the same thing he did with the Red Sea. He used water here, right? He used the Israelites. He used his people. He could have stopped this river himself and they didn't even have to face it. But sometimes, as I said before, God will create a problem so that he can solve it. And he wants to know if we have faith, right? It's a test of our faith. So he uses people. So this is what happens before they get into Jericho. Now, God comes to Joshua and is speaking to him and lets him know exactly what it is that he needs to do in order to be victorious in Jericho. All right. So I'm going to read out of, again, Joshua chapter 6. Now, Jericho was securely shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, see, I have given Jericho into your hand, its king, and the mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all of you, men of war. You shall go around the city once. This you shall do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. But the 7th day, you shall march around the city 7 times. So 7 times on the 7th day. And the priest shall blow the trumpets. It shall come to pass, when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, that all the people shout with a great shout. Then the wall of the city will fall down flat. Okay, so these are God's instructions. He tells Joshua exactly what he needs to do, and they are victorious over this. If you continue to read, what you see here is they do exactly that, right? 7 times on the 7th day, they let out a shout, the wall comes down. One of the big key instructions that God has to the people, the Israelites, is that they must remain silent the entire time. Silence for 7 days. Silence confuses the enemy. I'll tell you, the enemy was up there on top of that wall like they marching around, they silent, we don't know what's going on. We're confused. Throws us off. One of the things that I admire here and that I love is that God uses silence as a weapon. And I think that's the reason why it took me so long to record this video. Because God kind of silenced me in a sense over the last 2 weeks. But let me give you these few takeaways. So one is, I want you to, no matter what wall you're facing right now, look back at the Jordan River. Look back at what God has brought you over and brought you through. Look back at the miracles that God has already performed in your life. Right? As they say, look back over your life. Yes, I want you to take inventory and go into a state of worship, go into a state of praise, go into a state of gratitude. That's what God wants you to do, is to recognize, hey, look, I'm the same God that performed that miracle for you, that parted the Red Sea, that dried up the Jordan River. I'm the same God that I was then, that I am right now. Okay? The second thing that God wants us to know is what's our battle and what is his battle. So when I was thinking about this, I was at the gym and God just clearly spoke to me and he said, this wall is my battle. The people didn't get hammers and knives and start chipping away at the wall. God didn't tell them to touch the wall. He's like, I got the wall. That's my business. That's my job. What I need you to do is to be silent, to be faithful, and to be obedient. That's your weapon. So the wall that you're facing is God's battle. Your battle is on the other side of the wall. Remember, this battle didn't begin until the wall came down. And God really wants us to be prepared for that. He's using this wall to prepare us for what it is that we really need to conquer in our life. And the second thing that I want you to know is that God will provide you with what it is that you need to be victorious over it. He's going to provide you with weapons. He absolutely will. One thing we already know, I don't know what verse it is and what chapter in the Bible and all that, but we know that worship is a weapon, that your praise is a weapon. So that's one that you have right there. With the Wall of Jericho, silence was their weapon, was one of their weapons. And another one is God will send you help. And you have to look for it because it's subtle. It may come through a close friend of yours, a family member, something that you just come across and read, a resource. That's God. That's not coincidence. God will send you help, but I don't want you to miss it because you're looking for one thing and you labeled this situation as one thing and you miss God in it. God is going to use what you already have to help you win this battle. Sometimes he doesn't give us anything new. Look at Moses. He didn't give him a new staff. He used that same staff that he had right there. Just look at the people of the Israelites. He didn't give them any new weapons. He was like, hey, use them priests, use them trumpets y'all got already. Don't use your voice. Walk around. Be obedient. That was it. Whatever it is that you have right now, God can use that. And he wants to use that. All right. And then the last thing that I'll say here, because I want to wrap up, and this is one that is hard for me to even say and it's hard for me to even hear. I'm telling you, I struggle with this, is that you may not experience God's promise. You may not. And that sucks. That sucks because I'm one of those kind of people where like, I want to experience victories in all these things, in health, in finances, in relationships, spirituality, all these things. I want to experience it. But not everybody made it to the promised land. But God kept his promise to the people. He didn't say every single one of y'all going to experience this promise. He just said, I'm going to keep the promise. I will make good on what it is that I said I was going to do. So what I had to realize was, okay, Stacey, maybe you won't experience all the promises that God has for you in this life. Your children may experience these promises. Your friends may experience these promises. Your family members, your soon-to-be spouse, whoever. Your great-great-great-grandchildren. There are things that God has promised many people that we are experiencing today that they never got to see. And if you are a person of color, you already know what I'm talking about. God made good on that promise, but not everybody got to experience it. And we have to be okay with that. And if that's tough for you, like it is for me, let's go into prayer and ask God. Ask God to help us. Help us to accept what it is that we're going to experience in this life, what promises will be in front of us, and what promises will be ahead of us. So, I hope that this information blesses you. I hope that you all stay encouraged. Just know if you are facing a wall in your life right now, you are absolutely not alone. But you cannot fight that battle alone. You have to fight that battle with God. God bless.